folks, Jonathan here. Okay, everything's hooked up. Fuel pump mounted. We've got our new filter on. Got it plumbed in. We've got all the wiring done. Only wire I've got to run now will be the one wire alternator. It'll be one wire from it over to the, probably just the positive on the starter. And that'll be finished up. I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to do something to make sure we're sealed good around this pipe. I don't like it, but temporarily, that's what we're running. Let me see. Made a mount. I didn't want that fuel pump sitting on the bottom down there. There's so much rust and corrosion, and I'm afraid, you know, stuff will be sitting there later too, so won't make it any better. Fuel tank's working out really well. I went and got 15 gallons and put in it, along with about 3 or 4 that I'd already had in it. So no leaks, no problems. Returns hooked up, working good. Got our big battery in. And let me see. Okay, so the wiring we've got taken care of here. And we got our filters off. I put some really short bolts back in them holes. There's a lot of oil around it. I don't know whether they're bottom tapped or if they went into the block, but I didn't want to take a chance on it, so I just put some new bolts in there. We'll probably cap off the fuel pump, the holes there, just to keep stuff out of it. But like I said, we're not going to be using it, so when we pressure wash, we'll get the side of this block cleaned up. And probably just need to do the valve cover gasket. There's no major leaks on this engine at all, but I didn't put a new valve cover gasket on it when I was working with it. Let me see. So I've got a mechanical shut off. I could have put a cable on it. That's what it had originally, right here, and then somebody had a wire on it. But I wanted this mechanical because there's no, real use in having a cable, spending the extra money on it. Let me see. We've got to do the oil pressure gauge yet. It's on. It's actually this one. I think that was fuel. We're not worried about a fuel gauge. I put a light in here, but I didn't realize it was a 120 or 110 light. So I'm going to end up putting a different light in. I just want a light on when we flip this on. That's for fuel pump. And it shows our voltage, what we've got in the battery. And then we'll know whether it's charging or not. Temperature gauge hooked up, it should be good. And like I said, just a starter button. Now I have my skid steer hooked up the same way with a switch that turns on the fuel pump and the electric fans and the push button. So I'm really used to shutting one off. So, there won't be any chance, I don't think, of me forgetting and leaving the fuel pump on. Okay, folks. So I cut this off and I machined a new piece for the bottom. And this is for the lock on the house, keep it from turning. So I turned it down because this has got to slide down through a hole that's the size of this pipe. So we can't have the weld bulged out any. So this is ready to go. Get that on there. Alright folks, a couple of days of crappy weather. Warmed up a little bit today compared to yesterday. I did get some pressure washing done on this thing today. Trying to clean it up and get it ready to start welding some panels in and fixing some panels and putting some doors on. And let me see, we'll do a cold start on it real quick. Oh Lord. Wasn't much of a cold start. I guess it's probably 50 degrees, maybe 40 something, I don't know. But still have not decided as to whether I'm going to paint it or not. I'm going to go ahead and I want to weld these panels in and stuff. I can't have that. And maybe straighten out the back some and get the side panel, door panels on, because I want the doors, I want the engine covered. And that's probably, that might be it for a while, but we're planning on doing some picking with this thing really soon. Now, another thing I bought was a set of scales that'll do 20,000 pounds, and it's electronic, that will be hooked on this, and that way we'll see what we're actually picking with it, and we'll know whether that engine's really the 14,000 pounds they say it is. So anyway, mechanically we've got most of the stuff done, all but I've got to make a rod, but I'm gonna have to make a couple of clevises, and I haven't had any luck finding the ones I needed, so make a couple clevises, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the boom finished up, get it on here, and get the cables on it, and that way we can at least start using this thing. Okay folks, here's our tension scale. I want to show you what it looked like. This scale is good for 20,000 pounds, and basically what you do is hook a chain, but lower hole and top hole, or you can do a clevis, which is of course preferable method, but it's a tension scale, and it actually electronically monitors the stretch of the steel, and it's kind of crazy because you can pull it by hand and make it read, and it's not a problem. It'll, you can read it up to you can pull 80, 100 pound apart on it, or you can push it together and it'll actually show 0, and it's surprising how it works. And I'll give you an example of the pushing. Wait for it to come on and zero itself out. Now it'll probably go right on to 0, and there it is. So if I push on the load cell, it's going to give me a negative reading, because we're not picking up, we're actually pushing. You can see I'm putting 32, 37 pounds, 40, 44, let off and goes back to 0. Now if I pick up, its own weight is going to set it off at 13 pounds, which is probably about right, and then go back to 0. So what you do is you hang it, you put your chains on, get everything how you want it, and then you zero it out, and then it starts, start over from 0, and you can get a good accurate weight on it. And it's accurate within 5 pounds is what they claim, at 20,000 pounds. So that's pretty doggone good. Now, I have already weighed our boiler, and I was off on the way to the boiler. It was actually heavier than what I had in my head I thought it was, but I'll let you all guess at it, and I'll go show you the size of it. I'm sure everybody hadn't watched the video of me picking up the boiler, but it's a really good system, good setup. That's rechargeable off of 110, and it would have been nice if it had a 12 volt hookup, but it don't. But I can live with it, and I think it's a good unit. It's got the stainless cable. And the stainless is actually inside of a rubber coating, so I think everything's going to last good. It's a pretty decent unit. I'm really impressed with it, and impressed the way it works. And that way we can measure the weight on everything we lift, and it's easy to be off on weight, really easy. And I'm going to tell you what I thought this boiler was, and then you'll get to see what it actually was on the scale. Okay, so here's our boiler behind our wrecker. Now, something I'd like to say about this boiler. This boiler is not a 150 psi boiler. It's only a 15 psi boiler. So it's not going to be built nearly as heavy wall construction wise or thickness wise as what a boiler like the one we winched out of the swamp was, where it was made for 150 psi or 200 psi. So naturally it's going to be lighter. We figured sort of half the weight of a car. That's what it felt like on there. So I figured 1,500 to 1,750 pounds was my guess. Now, I don't remember what the measurements came out on that paperwork, and I'll list it in here below of what the paper by measurements said it was. Now, it was a different brand, but it should be close. and then I'll show you, of course, us weighing and what it actually did weigh. So, all right. Okay, folks, got the load cell hooked up, and seems to be working really well. So here's what we've got: 2,456 pounds. I thought maybe it was a little lighter. It felt lighter than that, but that's what we've got. So seems to be working good. All right, folks. Hopefully you guessed it right. All right, more on the crane soon. We're gonna get this thing picking. All right. Bye.